Welcome to the Pennsylvania Council on the Arts panel orientation. This orientation is for panelists reviewing applications for the Arts Organization's Arts Programs, or AOAP, Entry Track, and for the PPA program stream. My name is Matthew Serio, and I am a Program Director for the PCA. Let me begin by thanking you for volunteering to serve as a panelist for the PCA or for one of our regional PPA partners in the arts. I also want to thank you for taking the time to watch this presentation, and I hope that you will find it helpful. We will briefly highlight general information about the PCA and the grants process, and we will cover the funding streams and the panel review process, both what to do before the panel and what to expect the day of the panel. This is our mission and history, as well as our current chair and vice chair of the Pennsylvania Council of the Arts. The PCA is governed by a council of 19 members. The council sets the mission and goals for the agency, evaluates the PCA's progress towards these goals, formulates policy, and makes the final decisions on the use of public funds. The council has final authority in granting funds, and each year they decide on the parameters that limit the increases and decreases in grants. We act on the mission through a variety of activities. Grants to the arts is our main activity, and we do this directly through the PCA and through partnerships throughout the state. The partnerships make grants on our behalf, and we also have a number of initiatives that address specific opportunities. We provide technical assistance, our professional development and consultation program, to our partners and applicants, as well as information to organizations. We have an updated website, which you should visit, and we have a Facebook page with stories and additional information. This is a diagram that shows where organizations go when they come to us for funding. The first question we ask are, do you want funding for a single focus project or support for ongoing activities? If the fiscal size of the organization is under $200,000, then they are referred to their local PPA partner and encouraged to apply for a project stream grant. Project stream grants maximum request is $2,500, and these are given to organizations and individual artists. If you have been applying for 2 or 3 years in Project Stream with an ongoing arts program and consistently good scores through the panel process, you can then be recommended by a PPA partner or PCA staff to the council for transition into Program Stream. In Program Stream, the organization applies every 2 years for panel review and submit an interim application which is reviewed by the partner in off years. If there are over $200,000, then these organizations will come directly to the PCA through our Entry Track program. Once they have been in Entry Track for a few years and have a consistent track record of good panel scores, the organization can be recommended to the council to be transitioned into AOAP. AOAP is similar to Entry Track, but instead of applying every year, the organizations apply every 3 years, filling out an interim application in their off years. After successfully receiving 2 to 3 years of funding in Project Stream with consistently high scores, the grantee is invited to apply to Program Stream. Generally, grantees in Program Stream have an average fiscal size under $200,000. They submit a full application and are reviewed by the advisory panel every 2 years. In the off year, they submit an interim application. The application is based on past performance rather than projections. The formula funding is based on the combination of the advisory panel review assessment, organization's fiscal size, and the past PCA award. There are currently about 325 organizations getting ongoing support through Program Stream. Entry Track is one of the points of entry to PCA funding for organizations or programs. The average fiscal size of the applicant is $200,000 or over. Organizations and arts programs must be recommended by the advisory review panel and approved by the council before they are invited to apply to AOAP Track. The entry track supports eligible arts organizations and arts programs that generally have a history of at least 1 year consistent arts culture programming. Applicants to this track are a nonprofit, tax-exempt organization, an arts and culture program of a nonprofit organization, unit of government or school district providing arts programming and/or arts services in Pennsylvania. A standalone arts program may apply to entry track through a fiscal sponsor. Again, applications are based on past performance rather than projections. The funding formula is based on the review from the advisory panel assessment and the fiscal size of the organization. AOAP, or Arts Organizations Arts Program, grantees are on a 3-year cycle, completing a full application every 3 years and interim applications in the off years. Applicants to AOAP have an operating budget over $200,000 unless they are one of our regional partners or serve as a statewide or regional audience. Full applications are reviewed by a discipline-specific panel, and the interims are reviewed by the program directors here at the PCA. The application is based on past performance of the organization instead of what they are planning to do in the future. Interim applications only request a narrative if there are significant changes in the budget, staff, or programming. We use their most recent panel scores during the interim years. The funding formula is based on the panel scores, the fiscal size of the organization, and their past PCA awards. We support about 260 organizations through this track. This is a chart of the grants process from application to final report. First step is the application through eGrant. Then PCA or the partner program director selects panelists to review the applications. A panel book is created, and the panelists review the applications, the support materials, and the work samples prior to the meeting. The staff at the PCA or the partner holds panel meetings, of which the final result are the assessment scores. The scores are then inputted into our funding formula. The council approves the funding formula and sets all funding parameters. Applicants are then notified of their award. The grantees then complete the online award agreement, and the PCA gives the grantee great latitude in how to use the PCA funds. The activities or services provided to the Commonwealth occur during our grants period from September 1st through August 31st, and the final step is the final report submitted online to the PCA or the partner outlining how the funding was spent. In preparation for the panel, we require all panelists to read and evaluate all the applications using only the 3 criteria. Each application is assigned a lead and second evaluator. Remember to review the panel index to see which applications you have been assigned as the lead or second evaluator. Review all the work samples and support materials along with the narrative and financial and statistical report. And finally, record your comments and scores on the application cover sheet, which is the first page of each application. In summation, all panelists must read all applications, but be especially attentive to those applications that you are assigned. Your panel book will include the list of individuals who will serve on the panel, the agenda for the meeting, directions to the PCA, a map of the Commonwealth, guidelines, copies of the applications, and score sheets. The lead and second evaluator assignments will be on both the application cover sheets and on the panel index. Begin by scanning through all the applications to understand how long it will take you to review each application. Decide how many applications you can comfortably review in one day, and please don't begin to read the applications 2 days before the panel meeting. Generally, that won't be enough time to have a thorough understanding of the applicant's story. And contact the program director with any questions and/or conflicts of interest. As the lead or second evaluator, you will begin the discussion of the application. In your discussion, highlight and note those areas in the application you want the panel to notice. You can mention those items as you present your evaluations. The work samples and marking materials start the review of each application, and the lead and second evaluator can take this opportunity to highlight certain things in the work samples. The lead evaluator then begins the discussion, finishing by giving his or her scores. The second evaluator will present any observations that weren't presented by the lead evaluator, and then give their scores. We don't expect you to always agree with each other, but please be respectful of each other's opinions. The remaining members of the panel will be asked to give their scores and any additional comments. Remember, you as a panel will be asked to come to consensus on a score for each criterion. These are the 3 criteria you as a panel use to review all the grant applications. This year, the entire process has been upgraded. Narrative questions, financial and statistical report, support materials, and the review criteria. Take a moment to read the guidelines before beginning to review the applications. Now we'll look at those individually for each criterion. Although the online section lists the criteria alphabetically, we will begin the discussion with quality of product, process, or service. Review each of the bullet points and identify areas that reference those requests in the narrative, support materials, and/or financial and statistical data report. The questions in the application were constructed as a guide for the applicant to construct their story. This criterion addresses who is served and how they communicate their services to the community. Again, remember to reference the financial and statistical data report for attendance figures and communities served. The narrative will provide the successes and challenges in serving those communities. This section of the narrative will present the organization's infrastructure and how that infrastructure supports their activities as it relates to the organization's mission. Some applicants are programs within a larger non-arts organization and will only provide the information and narrative for that program only. Programs with universities and colleges are prime examples of this. The applicant will also outline their evaluation process and, if applicable, what changes were prompted by that process. This is the chart we will use during the meeting to chart your individual and consensus scores for each of the criterion. When scoring the application, it is helpful to begin with the descriptor before assigning a number. Often a panelist will say a number not within the boundaries of the descriptor. The chart also serves as a picture of the individual point spread and should be reflective of all the comments given. This is the web addresses for the PCAs and the PPA's e-grant sites. You will begin the review process going to one of these links depending on which panel you're serving on. This is a screenshot of the individual login pages. The program director will email your assigned login and password. Remember to go to the correct e-grant site for your panel. Everyone will be emailed detailed instructions on how to log in and initiate your reviewer session. There are also special instructions for those using an Apple iPad. I'm going to now switch to the eGrant site and walk you through the review process. So this is the login page for the AOAP and entry track. It is similar to the one for PPA. The difference is for the logo in the upper right corner, it'll actually say PPA. And it'll have all the information will be about PPA instead of the PCA. So you should have, if you've not already, you will be receiving your login credentials. So type in your login and password. This will open up the applications for you to review. If by chance you happen to be a panelist for more than one panel, which I don't think we have any, in the left-hand corner there is where it says, this one says presenting 2015-2016. There may be other panels listed. I do not believe we have anybody serving on multiple panels. These are a list of all of your applicants that you will be reviewing. At the top there is a view button, and then there is a review button. View will just show the application. Review will open up the reviewer. My suggestion is when you start, just click on the tab that'll highlight all of them, and then you can just hit review. That will bring up your first application. One moment. So, at the top, there is a comment box. There is also a place to type in your scores. Please do not use these. If it's helpful for you to remind yourself while you're doing it, that's fine. You will not have access to them during the panel meeting. It is better to write everything in your panel book. There is also a box to check if you have a conflict. And there's also one to mark if your review is complete. When you click on that, it will close this one and open up your next application. So going down, this has the application. This application is also in your panel book, so you have a hard copy of it. You don't have to necessarily read this one online, but it does have your complete application. And then there's two tabs. One says application, the other one says attachments. This is all of the materials that were uploaded by the applicant, and when you click on them, it opens another tab. So this is the schedule of activities, and everything should be in PDF form. If you have any issues opening anything, contact your program director, and they will help you through it. They may need to resave it and re-upload it to eGrant, but you should be able to view everything. So activities, board of directors list. One moment. Quick problem here. There we go. So board of directors. Also, any audio and video will also be available here. It may take a few moments. It will be downloading it when you click on it. So if there's a video to watch, click on it, give it a few moments for it to download so that you can view it. Any images, marketing materials, treasurer's report. For marketing materials, we also told the applicants if it's something that is a very nice brochure that just the upload of a PDF does not do its justice, they can send that as well, and they will be handed out and passed around during the panel meeting, but a vast majority should be uploaded. After you have reviewed everything, you've made your notes in your panel book, you've written your scores out. Please write your scores out ahead of time while you're reviewing them. It makes the process go much faster the day of. After you've done all this, you can then click on My Review is Complete, and it will go to the next page. One moment. All right. So then it opens up the next application. I do want to make one comment about the narratives. In the guidelines, you will see the questions which were given to the applicant to answer. The way we explained it to the applicant is they are not required to answer every one of the questions. The questions are there to guide them in telling their story. Now, on your cover sheets, and what we just saw the criteria. and those bullet points, they were told they had to answer or address each one of those bullet points, but not necessarily answer every one of the questions. So they may address the bullet points, but not by necessarily answering each individual question. As long as they address the bullet points, that's what they were told to do. After you have completed reviewing all of them online, you can go through next at the top. There's also a save button, which isn't really necessary because you're not saving any notes. It will bring you back to the main login. You can see which ones you have completed in this column. And that is eReviewer. We'll now go back to the rest of the PowerPoint. So this is the new PCA Financial Data and Statistical Report. This is found both in your panel book, and also it's available online for you to download in attachments. Page 1 is the contact information and with the name of the applicant. We've highlighted is where you can locate the fiscal year, which is at the very top, the first line. The next two screenshots show the cash review of the applicant. The data sources are divided into 3 categories: earned, contributed, and private. This shot shows the earned and contributed and their subtotals. The applicant may reference data from any or all of these line items to illustrate successes, challenges, and solutions to challenges. It is important to note that in-kind or endowment aren't captured in the total cash review. The first column is the most recent completed fiscal year, and the second column reflects 2 years ago. This screenshot shows the revenue from foundations, corporate, individual board members, individuals, parent organization, and fundraisers. It is important to note that some organizations capture donations from the board of directors and or their membership in the individuals. And there's all others line item. The next 4 screenshots show the expense divided into 3 categories: program, fundraising, and general and administrative. It should be noted that applicants may have expenses in a category, but it is combined in another category. For example, an applicant may pay someone to do their fundraising, but that expense is shown in the general and administrative category. It is the responsibility of the applicant to highlight their financial and statistical data report in their narrative. The first column is the most recently completed fiscal year, and again, the second column reflects 2 years ago. Highlighted here are the salaries, fundraising, and other fundraising. Many organizations without development departments don't capture staff salaries in the fundraising fields. You shouldn't assume that the organization doesn't conduct fundraisers if nothing is captured on this page. In many instances, it is captured in another location. And again, it is the responsibility of the organization to highlight their fundraising activities and the category where you can find the numbers that correlate with the narrative. The general and administrative category in general captures the organization's salaries, operating expenses, and other expenditures not captured in the other program and fundraising categories. Total salaries and fringe from all the categories are totaled in line item 3.4.2. The grand total cash expenses are captured in line 3.4.1. Any program, fundraising, and general and administrative expenses captured in other category will be shown in this section, accompanied by a brief description of those expenditures. Captured in section 4, non-financial information is the attendance figures, paid and free, as well as the number of contributors. Again, some organizations capture the donations from the Board of Directors in the individuals line item 4.1.1. Also captured on this page is the website activity. This screenshot further delineates the number of events occurring in the home city facility and those presented out of town. It will also provide the range of ticket prices and the average ticket prices for adult, senior, single, child, and student. One or more of these numbers may be highlighted in the applicant's narrative. This section identifies if there are paid or volunteer staff and the number of paid contractors. These numbers will be supported by the applicant's management and program narrative. The panel process. Again, we require that all panelists provide an objective evaluation of the applicant. The work sample may not be your taste, but that should not prevent you from evaluating the quality, access, and management of the product, process, or service. The last bullet was added to identify the best practices across the state and to share them with the council as well as the field. The best example is the PPA project stream, Best of the Best, highlighting how the Pennsylvania Partners in the Arts projects made art available to communities across the Commonwealth and a wide variety of community activities developed in local settings. Go to our website to see the Best of the Best projects. Each panel is asked to identify those projects to be shared with the council in their July and fall meetings. The program director's job is to facilitate the meeting without commenting on the applications. The job is to provide factual information without bias, present the work samples, help the panel reach consensus without offering any recommendations for assessment totals, assist the panel in applying the criteria, and answer any factual questions. In summation, the program director is there to keep the panel focused on the application. And another very important task is the collection of meeting notes. Notes aren't captured word for word or attributed to any specific panelist, but they are needed when giving the organization insight into how the panel evaluated their application. It is a tool to demonstrate to the applicant areas where they did exceedingly well, as well as those areas that need improvement. Organizations do call and ask for the notes, and notes are given as part of a discussion with the applicant. They serve as a guide to the program director and are an invaluable guide to the organization when they are preparing the grant for the next full application cycle. I'm going to take a moment to review the points we have presented throughout this application. Remember, the burden of the presentation is on the applicant, but the application is a lens or window to see the work of the applicant, that the applicant has done. Use all of your powers of observation to see the real work. This is not the counsel on spelling or grammar or grant writing. Distinguish between taste versus quality. Something may not be your taste, but it may be quality. Be consistent throughout your review, both at home as well as during the meeting. If you start tough, stay tough. The power of group observation will provide a fair and objective review and score. And finally, never reference yourself or organization during the review process. If you want to make a point to highlight a particular observation, you should use the word generally before stating your comment if you feel the urge to reference the field or a particular individual or organization. We observe a very strict interpretation of conflict of interest that goes beyond familial and financial partnerships. We do observe a 3-year horizon either before or after the date of the panel meeting. Remember, you are asked to serve on the panel for your knowledge of the field, and knowing an employee or artist who has worked with the applicant doesn't preclude you from the discussion unless you feel you cannot be objective in your review. If you have any questions, please call the program director to discuss the potential conflict. And finally, just a few do's and don'ts to remember as you review the applications. Please remember to read all the applications. Don't worry about how much money is available. Again, be prepared to offer an opinion, and also be prepared to disagree with each other but reach a consensus. Do not bring in rumor and speculation, but rely on the facts. During the panel meeting, there are 2 rounds. The first round is the initial presentation of the application, including the presentation of work samples, the lead and second evaluator comments, and the full panel discussion to reach consensus. This round takes the majority of the time. In this round, panelists should only evaluate each application on its merit in the context of their mission. This round does not compare the applications to each other. We share any required support materials sent in with the application, and the lead and second evaluator, as I mentioned before, will present the application while identifying strengths and weaknesses. The lead evaluator should not reread the application. 1 or 2 sentences about the applicant, and then right into the successes and challenges, and then provide the scores. After the lead is finished, the second evaluator presents any additional observations and highlights, any differences from the lead evaluator's review, and then they provide their scores. The entire panel discusses the application, giving their individual scores and any additional comments. The final step is to reach a consensus for each criterion assessment total. This is not an average of the assessment totals. When the panel reaches round 2, they are asked to take a moment to review where each applicant appears in a rank order of assessment totals. They appear in order from the highest to the lowest point total for each individual criterion, quality, access, and management, to make sure no application is out of place. This is the panel's final opportunity to revise an assessment total. It is important to note that you will not be allowed to participate in any discussion on any application with which you had a conflict. Consistency is very important throughout the entire process. The more consistent the panelists are, the fewer adjustments we'll have to do in the end. One final observation. The information reviewed by the panel is provided by the applicant. It is up to the applicant to present the information in a clear, complete, and compelling way. The new application was designed to help the applicant tell their story. Don't discuss any of the process, conversation, and/or results that occur before or during the panel review process. Remember, you are presenting recommendations to the council for their approval and the final determination of all grants. The council has the obligation and authority to determine all grants. We require that any questions or inquiries you receive, you forward or ask the person to contact the program director. That takes you out of the middle and properly focuses the applicant on their application only. If there are any questions that you haven't had answered, please contact your program director who asks you to serve as a panelist, either from the PCA or from one of our regional PPA partners. There's much more information about the reason the PCA uses this process of past performance on our website, and we encourage you to take a look at our website. And as always, thank you for consenting to serve as a panelist. You are the way we serve the people of Pennsylvania, and we thank you for your partnership in these efforts. Have a great day.